In the beginning, God created Adam, and then he created Eve out of one of Adam's ribs. He placed them in a garden east in Eden and planted every tree that was pleasing to the sight and good for food. Among the trees were the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God allowed them to eat from the tree of life and live forever, but warned them not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because he told them that if they would eat from it, they would die. Then along came the serpent, and it told them that they would not die, but they would be like God. Eve was the first who ate from the tree of knowledge, and then shared it with Adam. And then God said to his angels, "Behold, the man has become like us, to know good and evil." God then cast the humans out of the Garden of Eden and placed the cherubim with a flaming sword to guard the entrance. Now I know what you're probably thinking at this point. What does the book of Genesis have to do with sex? And the answer is simple: everything. I've wanted to talk about this topic for a while, because when I first became awakened, the spirituality of sex was one of the first things I had learned about. Now, just as I mentioned in my previous videos about channeling and other types of spiritualities, sex can be dangerous if it isn't given the respect it deserves. It isn't something to look down upon or even be shy about. It's a part of our lives and a part of our soul. When the ritual of sex is performed correctly, the energies of all those involved are allowed to freely intertwine. This is why tantric sex is widely practiced by spiritual partners. First, Tantra itself isn't necessarily about sex. Tantra is to widen and expand the consciousness to high levels where you're able to perceive higher frequencies of the universe. It's basically a way to help the Kundalini energy rise within yourself. And when you conduct the ritual of tantric sex, you are allowing the spiritual energy to rise along with the Kundalini energy. The sexual energy is the pure energy which illuminates the human soul. It is the energy of our divine light. The natural way that it was intended was to allow the sexual energy to rise along with the Kundalini energy. This is the purest way to use sexual energy. Okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself now. You guys are probably still wanting to know what all of this has to do with Adam and Eve. Well, when I was young and taught the many stories of the Bible, I did as all Christians do and took it way too literal. And just a disclaimer, who's to say it's not? Who's to say I'm right and religious groups are wrong? All I'm presenting you with is what I've discovered through research, meditative channeling, and the wisdom of my guides. Anyway, let's not forget that there are many interpretations of the Bible. And in this case, let's take a look at the book of Genesis author, Moses. I've actually begun my study of the true meaning behind the Bible when I was a kid. Even living in a devout Christian home, I was always curious. Something kept pushing me to ask questions and look further, because there was so much more under the surface that I wasn't seeing and my religion wasn't telling me. And one thing I learned that stuck out to me when I was a kid and kept coming up in my research as an adult is that the Bible is actually symbolic.
The narratives of the doctrine are its cloak. The simple look only at the garment, that is, upon the narrative of the doctrine. More they know not. The instructed, however, see not merely the cloak, but what the cloak covers.
The characters and events are metaphors, and a cloak that hides the real message for only those who are spiritually open to seek out and find. And now Moses, who is the author of the book of Genesis, even though he was Jewish, he was raised to be an Egyptian pharaoh and was taught the hidden wisdom of Egypt. Some say that the mystery schools of ancient Egypt is where many of the spiritual knowledge and practices originated from. In fact, that was actually one of the things I learned during my time with the Rosicrucians. Many of the information in their archives originated from the Egyptian mystery schools. Information that teaches us the same things we learn from our spirit guides. Now back to Genesis. In the beginning, God separated man from woman so that they may see themselves better. Yet remnants from each remained in the other, which is why men still possess feminine energy, while women still possess masculine energy. This energy is represented by the caduceus, winding up the human spine in the form of a snake, or serpent in this case, which is the same chakra where our sexual energy originates from. These two energies, one masculine and one feminine, in Sanskrit, they are called Ida and Pingula. In Kabbalah, they are called Od and Ode. And in esoteric Christianity, they are called Adam and Eve. It is the energy of Eve which pushes us to procreate. It gives us the desire to release the sexual energy. When it said that early humans were allowed to eat from the tree of life, it meant that they were allowed to enjoy the benefits of abiding in perfection as divine beings. It was the tree of life in the spiritual sense, not an actual tree. They were allowed to explore their spirituality and exist on a higher level of consciousness. They were also allowed to enjoy the tree of knowledge, but not allowed to eat from it. Remember when I said sexual energy is actually the divine energy that illuminates our souls. Early humans were only allowed to use it in the most purest way. But the early humans didn't listen and ate the forbidden fruit. They abused the sexual energy and wasted the divine energy that connected them to God. Without this energy, they were no longer able to perceive God directly and unable to perceive a higher level of consciousness. Also, note how I said God put a cherubim with a flaming sword to guard the entrance rather than locking it, because only those who have conquered the serpent and learned to use the sexual energy as it was meant to will be able to once again perceive a higher level of consciousness. This is why tantric sex is practiced deeply in spiritual groups. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are the consequences for abusing the sexual energy. As I said before, and I'm saying it for a third time because it's important, sexual energy is the divine energy that illuminates the soul. This is what the book of Genesis was talking about the forbidden fruit. Early humanity abused the sexual energy. Without this energy, the soul atrophies, which negatively affects us spiritually, mentally, and physically. And I am in no way saying that having the sexual energy rise with the Kundalini is the right way. I'm just saying it's the purest way. This is why some religions push for marriage before sex, to have one partner to share each other's energy in a positive way. But I'm also not saying only one partner in your lifetime is the right way either. Notice how I said positive. When you partake in the ritual of sex, and yes, I am calling sex a ritual, you genuinely want it to be an experience with positive energy, where both you and your partner's chakras are fully open and allow you to share each other's sexual energy. It should be something pure, with the two of you having a deep spiritual connection. Otherwise, there could be negative spiritual consequences. Whenever you keep your chakras open and you keep your energy up, you do your meditations and you keep your energy pure, it makes you more sensitive to other people's energies, especially when it comes to sex. Because whenever you have sex with someone, you're not only becoming one flesh with that person, you're also opening up your aura to them and exchanging energies with one another. So any type of negative energy or dark attachment that your partner may have will also be transferred over to you. Because like I said, you are opening your auras to one another and sharing your energy. And I invite you to look into this further yourself. Just like all of my videos, this one was merely to touch the surface. I'm here to plant the seed, and it's up to you to water the flower and watch it grow. But for now, just know that sex is a gift granted by God after He separated man from woman. It was given so that we may use it in order to see each other better. It's something that should be cherished and respected, not abused. And as soon as we all learn that, and as soon as we understand that, we'll be able to return to the higher consciousness from where we were banned.